As a poll manager, you have many responsibilities on Election Day. One of the most important considerations is polling place accessibility. In compliance with the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA, your South Carolina State Election Commission and your County Election Commission have embraced efforts to make the voting process more accessible to voters with disabilities. In selecting the location of your polling place, your County Election Commission has already taken into account many of the accessibility requirements set up by the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. The ADA requirements include features such as van-accessible parking, cutout curbs and ramps for wheelchairs and walkers, restriction-free paths of travel and entranceways into the polling place, and handrails on steep ramps. The ADA accessibility requirements for polling places are detailed online. If you care to review them, visit www.usdo.gov/crt/ada/votingchecklist.htm. When opening your polling place, you should be aware of the needs of voters with disabilities and take a quick tour of the facility and grounds to assure ADA accessibility. Awareness is the key. If you find that your polling place does not provide easy access to voters with disabilities, do what you can to correct the minor problems. In cases of major impairment to voters with disabilities, arrange to have a poll manager monitor problem areas such as parking lots, curbs, steps and doorways, and provide curbside voting to those voters who are unable to access the polling place. If you have enough poll managers, one may act as a greeter who can assist voters with disabilities entering your polling place. The parking lot should be smooth, solid, and gravel-free if possible. Check for debris. Sweeping an accessible parking lot or walkway may remove any loose gravel, mud, grass, or broken glass that could hinder a wheelchair or walker. Be aware, an all-gravel or dirt parking lot may hinder access, requiring poll managers to offer curbside voting. Curbside voting signs are available from your County Election Commission. The parking lot should offer at least one van-accessible space with room for an aisle. One option is to use 3 parking spaces to make 2 accessible spaces with an access aisle. You may have to relocate parking areas to provide accessible parking. All accessible parking spaces should be marked with the International Wheelchair symbol. Be aware, voters with disabilities should have clear access from the parking lot all the way to the voting booth. Make sure that curbs have cutaways or ramps, that sidewalks are clear of debris, and steps are covered with ramps or are to be monitored by a poll manager. Also, make sure that at least one entranceway is accessible to voters with disabilities. Doors should be marked with a bold sign that reads, "Accessible Entrance," in addition to a "Vote Here" sign. Signs should be available from your County Election Commission. Doors should be able to be opened by a voter with a closed fist. Landings should have room to maneuver a wheelchair. If necessary, prop a door open or station a poll manager to monitor access for voters with disabilities. As set forth in your poll manager's handbook, curbside voting is to be offered to any voter who, because of physical handicap or age, cannot enter the polling place in which he or she is registered to vote. The curbside voting courtesy also applies to someone who is unable to stand in line to vote. These people may vote outside the polling place in their vehicle using the iVotronic voting machine. You may provide chairs for those voters who have trouble standing. Be sure to monitor this arrangement so the voters will not lose their place in line. When the poll manager monitoring the reserved accessible parking identifies a voter who requires curbside voting, the poll manager should verify the voter's registration and identification, making sure the voter is eligible to vote at your precinct. The poll manager should then, accompanied by a second poll manager, collect the designated curbside poll list, a red PEB, and unplug the easily portable iVotronic voting machine designated for curbside voting, and take these 3 items to the curbside voter's vehicle. Insert the red PEV and give the voter the voting machine. Show the voter how it is used if necessary, and allow the voter to complete the ballot in private. No one else is allowed in the vehicle during the voting. When the voter has cast his or her ballot, return the voting machine to the booth for use by other voters. Be sure to plug in the power cord. The voting machine's portability enables ease of use for voters using wheelchairs. Make sure wheelchair voters have adequate room to maneuver while voting. The ADA-G manual encourages the use of a table with a minimum height of 28 to 34 inches, minimum width of 30 inches, and a minimum depth of 19 inches. Place a voting booth on the table for voter access. The voting machine's ADA-compliant audio ballot feature also supports visually impaired voters, as well as those voters who are unable to read or write. Headsets for the ADA-compliant audio ballot plug into the bottom right of the voting machine. The volume can be controlled on each headset. Voters are permitted to use their own headsets if they so desire. Remember to press the diamond-shaped button to initiate the audio cues. All of these voters should use the audio cues along with the arrow and diamond-shaped buttons at the bottom of the machine to cast their votes. The voter will use the up arrow and down arrow to navigate through the ballot and use the diamond-shaped button to make selections. When not being used by disabled voters, this unit can be used by others. Once again, awareness is the key to assuring accessibility to the polling place for voters with disabilities. Look around. Do what you can to make voting easy for every voter and practice disability etiquette. Here are the basics. Ask before you help. Many voters can manage on their own and value their independence. You may offer assistance, but don't act unless you're asked to do so. Be sensitive about physical contact. Even if your intention is to help, grabbing someone could knock them off balance. Avoid patting a person on the head or touching his or her wheelchair, cane, or scooter. Think before you speak. Respect is the word. Always speak directly to the person with a disability, not to his or her companion. Do not ask about his or her disability. Talk to him or her just as you would talk to anyone else. Don't make assumptions. A person with disabilities is the best judge of what he or she can do. Don't make decisions for him or her. People who are visually impaired, identify yourself before making any physical contact. Tell him or her your name and role. Offer your arm as a guide. Do not grab his or her arm. If a person has a guide dog, walk on the side opposite the dog as you describe any obstacles along the way. People who are hard of hearing. People who are hard of hearing usually are able to communicate in English. Speak slowly and clearly, since it may be difficult for him or her to read your lips. People with complete hearing loss will usually let you know how to best communicate with them, either in writing, with hand gestures, or through a companion who knows American Sign Language. Be sure to maintain eye contact with the person with hearing loss and not the interpreter. Persons who are cognitively challenged. It may be difficult for a person who is cognitively challenged to make decisions quickly. Be patient. Speak clearly and avoid using abstract terms. Do not use baby talk. If any conflicts arise due to the unfamiliar setting of the polling place or a misunderstanding, be patient, flexible, and use open and direct conversation to resolve the issue. Treat everyone as an individual. In the end, respect everyone as a human being, as an individual, just like yourself. Now that you are aware of the needs of people with disabilities, you will be better able to meet any needs that they may have. Thank you for your commitment to all of South Carolina's voters. As you know, every vote matters. Every vote counts.